What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. Nightmare Faction Trials 13 to 18 are live, and you're here to learn about 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 in a single vid, and then obviously also 18 when I actually managed to get a proper clear down that I want to share with you. So without further ado, you know we're not going to talk about it too much, we're just going to get straight into that. So the way this is going to work here is we'll have the gameplay in the background, I'll explain everything along as we go, as well as potential replacements for units, the way you gear your units and everything like that in one, rather than like doing a lengthy explanation before without showing anything. So we're going to, I guess, combine gameplay and explanations. So first off, what you're going to notice here is these fireballs. Learning about these fireballs is essentially going to be your key to success. So let's have a look at how you deal with this fireball successfully. So the reason why I mention this is because in my stage 13 right here, I'm not dealing with them successfully, but later to the later parts, I've, I guess you could say, learned how to take advantage of them. So let's have a look at the proper way to deal with the fireball. The fireball comes in, you place down your unit, and then once the fireball enters your unit hits box, right, into your unit square below the unit, but it doesn't collide with the unit yet, you can retreat the unit. And if you retreat the unit here, what you see is the fireball explodes, our unit didn't die through the fireball, and we still get our cost back. So this is how you want to deal with these fireballs, and it is the timing you should master, because depending on what you have and how you use it and how you play it, it's going to be most likely essential, or at least heavily advised / helpful, to not lose your units against these fireballs. Otherwise you're just going to be wasting cost, and trust me, wasting cost is the least of the things you want to do here. So then, for example, you see this is going to be an example of how you don't want to deal with the fireballs, where we just kind of yeet our units in. Important too, you can let fireballs pass. If there's no one to block, you can let a fireball pass. It does not harm your core. So you can see here we completely wasted the cost. We didn't get anything back. So let's talk about base strategy for this stage right here. You have the top lane and you have the bottom lane. To deal with the top lane, the only thing you need to do is place down someone like a Gluttony in an HP set, as well as with the HP restoring artifact or with the max HP artifact, and then he's going to be basically able to solo them. He's not going to eat them, but he's going to stay alive, he's going to do enough damage, and then the only thing you do is you take care of the fireballs. And then you have your mid lane right here, and for the mid lane it's going to be quite simple, quite straightforward, in that you need a marksman. So the reason why we're bringing a legendary marksman is not necessarily because I think Hudson and Yuri are absolutely necessary for the stage, but they are necessary for you to get a 3-star clear, because that's one of the conditions to bring a nightmare marksman. So if you have to bring one of them anyway, might as well make use of them. And that is then also the way we're going to be dealing with the stage right here. As in, you see us just doing something very simple. We place in a tank to block the units, bring in a Hatsa to deal the damage, while again sacrificing Damon with his low cost, low respawn time into the fireballs, while then having Gluttony, as you can see, pretty much take care of it by himself. And then obviously if there were too many enemies, you can kind of see how he's not really taking too much damage, but we're still going to be using a Wrath just to give him a bit of a, you could say, bit of support in the top lane, because you don't really want him to be blocking too many units. So that's why we just get Wrath in there, and that's pretty much the top lane solved, and then the rest is just going to be the middle lane. Overall, if you see any of these units, tanks are obviously in tank gear, Gluttony is in tank gear, and then a DPS that actually gets hit by any of these monsters is going to be in an attack set with main stat, like for example Sorbonne Arcano or Infernal Roar, but HP percent substats, whereas someone who can stay behind the tank and just deal damage is going to be in a true DPS set. So think something like obviously no needed substats, or for example attack flat or rage region or whatever, right? If they don't need to tank stuff, there's no need for HP substats. So the solution to 13 is pretty straightforward. It's just 2 units who can block, then yeah, our marksman right here. Obviously you only need one of them. What's even preferable is you bringing something in like a Volker you can place behind here to deal some AoE damage, somebody else with like a 2-tile range. You could even bring in someone like an Arrogance, you can bring in someone like a Lust. So there's a couple of units you can bring here. The Nightmare faction obviously has a lot of variety there, so there's no need for you to bring in these specific units. Like as you can see right here, we have Decimus. Decimus is just there to actually block units, and once he kills his units, you see how he's kind of pretty much useless because he only has 1 tile rather than 2 tile range, so he won't even be able to touch anyone in front of Toreador. And then it's again like the similar thing. Block the fireballs with the units the way you've blocked before. Let these units come in close, use your ultimates to take care of them, and then so stage 13 is straightforward. It's about like learning the fireball mechanic, putting some tanky self-sustain units into the top lane, and also obviously if you were to bring Volker, these units would restore even more max HP just upon basic hits just through her passive alone. So now that is stage 13 done, let's move on into stage 14. Alright, so here we go, stage 14, this time a little bit different, and that is it's still the same layout. You need to defend the top lane, then you need to worry about the mid lane, but this time you have these units standing early, so you want to start with an early marksman. Could be Yuri, could be Hatzit, both of them work. You want to spam their ultimate, so try to get in some damage as early as possible, and just so you can like clear them out before they actually start moving. Then you again do the same thing where you make sure or try to master like the fireball, I guess, withdrawal technique, so you can get the full amount of cost, because cost is one of the biggest restraints here with you placing in units, taking them out again, placing in other units, having to deal with the fireballs and the like. But once again, it's going to be our trusted friend Gluttony just healing himself nicely enough, and us obviously stopping the fireballs. And then right here for the middle lane, we're also going to be just placing in like an Astral and a Volker as like our AoE damage dealers, as we've discussed at the end of stage 13. So just anything with 2 tile range so they can hit in front of a potential tank. And then also here, the good part about Astral is he's going to give us a shield for us and Volker. And he and Volker are also working very well together in making sure they recover a whole bunch of HP every single time they basic attack. I think it's a combined 5% for the 2 of them, so every basic attack gives them 5% max HP. And I guess you also then have Yuri, who if you have the bond skill with Kigiri, is going to also use her orb to provide some extra healing. And then you see at the top lane how there's, I guess, a bit too many units coming in against Gluttony. So rather than just letting them pass, you just put in another unit that has 2 tile range, like for example Wukong, and then Wukong can just hit in front of Gluttony and make sure this whole thing goes through. Overall, awakening wise, all of these units at the moment are still A0. You can do this with just A0 units and you'll be fine. And outside of that, yeah, just like any unit does, right? You could use an Agaris at the top, Ares, not Agaris, Ares. You could even try Magnus if you feel like it in the middle lane. There's a bunch of options. Once again, something of a peculiarity. Why, if you're wondering why did I just sacrifice Wrath, pay attention to this fireball. So we place in Daemon. He summons the clone from the artifact. And now, for whatever reason, the artifact summoned clone can actually, if you pay attention to it, collide with the fireball and block it. Is it a super reliable strategy? No, but it can happen. And then here we just placed Wrath into the fire to kind of simulate us blocking it. So we still end up in like a similar cost scenario, because this is obviously not something like easily replicated. Then again, here with all these units coming in, it's pretty straightforward. You just introduce a tank here, or you don't, because you don't have to fear this, because there's still a space in front of the core where you can just place down a fighter and take care of any like stragglers. And then from there on out, it's just, I guess you could say a rinse and repeat again of dealing with the fireballs, getting that timing correct, and also just building up your defense with your long range units as well as also your tanks. And then from here, it's these guys coming in. But then we also have a new damage type, or I guess a new enemy type, and that is once more units that get stronger if they are together with another unit on the tile. So these X-Men get a ridiculous amount of attack and a ridiculous amount of attack speed if they're together on a tile. And that's also the reason why here currently we've saved all our ults to then try to get rid of them fast and quick, to make sure that they don't just annihilate our units. And even if they do, we luckily have some survivability in Toreador and in Baron. So you can see us really focusing these guys, trying to make sure that they don't stay too long on one tile and that they then can't use their like incredible damage potential, I guess. And then that's also stage 14 done. Alright, so stage 15. Stage 15 starts out similar. This time these units don't wait on you, they just come in instantly. So we're going to use the same SJ Volker combo as well as a Yuri. Here we're actually going to hold SJ's ultimate as long as possible to ensure that it is still up while these enemies close in, to ensure that he can deal some extra damage against them right here. And then obviously you can see that he's getting kind of overwhelmed, so we're just putting in a tank to give some extra block. He'll obviously with his range be able to hit everyone. And then also we just put in a Wrath for some additional save healing, as well as together with Volker they can then pretty much hold the line. And this is the middle lane done with, because now introduce the big bad guy of stage 15, and that is going to be Maw. So Maw has two abilities you need to pay attention to, and this is one times where he slams the ground and does like a AoE area damage that does a whole bunch. So you either need units that are tanky enough to survive it and then get enough survivability, or healing from a Volker, from an S-Trail, or from a passive or an awakening to get themselves back up. Or you use someone like a Kigiri or someone like a Salazar to just evade the ultimate, or I guess counter the ultimate in Kigiri's case, so that their units just don't end up dying. Right here, game plan is still similar. We use Gluttony to block, and we use Kigiri for some damage. Kigiri A0 works. Any other fighter, you could even try Salazar, still works. It's just if you have a Kigiri at A3, it just goes a little faster. Maw dies a little quicker, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference. The lane at the bottom isn't necessarily too much of a problem. You can kind of just use your ults to just take care of the waves. There's nothing super dangerous there. The main part is you pay attention to Maw, you pay attention to the fireballs. You see this attack again hitting. You do need at least 47,000 HP, which you should get even if you don't have any HP substats, so that your Kigiri doesn't get one shot here when his ult isn't ready. And then you have another fireball. So right now there's a second move. There's a second move you need to pay attention to with Maw. It's what I like to call my special trick right here, because I think it's kind of sneaky and it is kind of helpful. And that is when you see him obviously do this like sucking attack, he obviously heals himself. But around 18 enemies, around after him doing this ultimate again, right? You see around 17 enemies, he's doing this ult, you block it with Kigiri. That is when you need to get vigilant of Maw, and that's because he has a second move. So Maw usually uses his left hand to attack, but the moment you see him use his right hand, that's his special move. What this special move is going to do is it's going to hit your Gluttony or your tank, and it's going to stun them. Not only does that mean Maw will just walk past them, no, you also won't be able to take them out and put in another tank instead. So what you do is you look out for the tell. You saw how like he tried to give our Gluttony a little slap, and we just removed Gluttony in time. And what that leads to is basically his move failing. He neither stuns, nor does he walk past, nor are you unable to replete Gluttony, and then you just place in the tank. And that's the reason why the DPS of your damage dealer at the top doesn't really make a difference, because you can pretty much infinitely stall Mr. Maw if you just pay attention to that detail. So I hope that helps you out in dealing with him. And then I hope you're not as stupid as I am, because you just block the fireball like a normal person, right? You just end up blocking the fireball like a normal person. You don't fail to do so, and then it's not gonna explode your whole formation. But luckily for us, our damage was still enough. You can kind of see obviously here there's still a bunch going on, but nothing special, because as I said, there are like no dangerous enemies. It's not like they're gonna one-shot your Wrath, or there's like so many units that are just gonna walk past. These fireballs, again, even if you finished more early, you can just let them go through. It's not like they actually do any core damage, and then it's just these fireballs going in, and that is it. Stage 16 done and 15 done and dusted. So let's move on to stage 16, and one of the peculiarities of me actually trying to make a guide for this, and that is I actually cleared the stage, but then I only had one attempt to redo the stage, and I accidentally finished the stage clear with an auto, which means I don't have the ability to play a stage that I've cleared before. So the only stage I can currently play is stage 18. So I apologize in advance. For stage 16, you have to deal with not only power of dominance active, I obviously explained it in a way that it still makes sense, but also with 3 times reduced speed, so that we can get rid of that god-awful 3.5 times speed. Otherwise, nobody's going to understand what's going on. So, introduced with wave 16, you have this like, what you can refer to as like the triple combo. You have 3 of these X-Men, 2 of them are going to be very close together, 1 is going to lag behind, and the way we'll deal with them here is actually through using S-Trail and then a tank. But let me actually show you the smarter way to do so, the same way that I showed you how to actually deal with the Fireball, and that is if you have her, the best way to deal with these units is actually Valeria. So you're going to start off with a Valeria, and then Valeria, you can just use her ultimate. She's going to be unable to die. If you use it properly enough, if she's strong enough, she'll basically be able to solo all of them by themselves. But if she doesn't, then you can just place someone like a Wrath, because the 2 units are going to stick on her. The 1 unit is going to walk past into your Wrath, into your other fighter, and then that's how you can easily deal with these X guys, because again, they are split, meaning they don't do their full damage. So this is how it should have been done. But even, especially, I guess, if you don't have a Valeria, this is going to be, I guess, more visually accurate. So now there's going to be a lot of things happening. So first off, we're going to be placing in Daemon. The reason why we place in Daemon is because these units, not only do they hit for like 500,000 damage, so you want to get rid of them, but they're invulnerable to damage taken. The way you can make them vulnerable to damage is by placing a unit in front and having them deal damage. The moment they deal damage, they become vulnerable. So that's what we do with Daemon here. We make the top guy vulnerable, and also you see how we have a Gluttony on the field. Gluttony on the field so that he can charge up his ultimate, so that he can get to full ult, so he can eat up one of the X-Men, because those aren't actually elites, which is one of our ways to like make your life easier at the bottom lane. So while we are still dealing with the top lane, you can see how we again used like a Baron plus Astral combo. We then also already get in Yuri. Yuri as our marksman, you could have used Hatsud instead. It doesn't really make a difference. Both are more than enough to deal with it. We then also use Daemon to again get rid of the invulnerability of the second guy. So here we have these X guys come in, and just the important part is place Gluttony in a way that his ultimate goes off before both of them are on the same tile, right? You see he actually was able to kill one of them, and now he can pretty much not infinitely tank, but very much better tank the guy at the bottom. And obviously there's been no changes, right? I've done it without Power of Dominance. It's just a bit of these numbers being weird with Power of Dominance. So outside of that, we then also have Kigiri. So Kigiri, he just makes your life so much easier for this stage. It's just the way it is. And that is, we're going to be using Kigiri's ult to block a slash from one of these units. And then Kigiri's ult is going to be able to kill one of them, keep one of them alive, and then Kigiri can pretty much finish the job there. And after the ult, with the way we've placed our Kigiri, there would even be another dash in from Kigiri, which is going to end up killing the units. And you can also use someone like a Wrath, as we're doing here, to split up the units to make sure they're not on the same tile, as well as, I guess, serve as a blocker for Kigiri, with us also having removed our units at the top so that the fireballs, they can just pass through, but they don't actually take any of our core health. Once again, here it's going to be a similar scenario where we have the X guys at the bottom. We can attack one of them. Obviously, this is just because of Power of Dominance. They don't actually die. We actually just use a Gluttony ult. You see how we remove Gluttony. That is because Gluttony has eaten the first guy. We remove Gluttony and then put in the same formation as before to deal with this triple set of X guys, which is an Astral plus a Baron, and Baron placed in a way that these guys don't end up on the same tile. So we have one guy in front, one guy behind, and then it's Wrath and Kigiri. So Kigiri usually here would have again been able to get off another block instantly so that he can get a counter, but obviously Power of Dominance, again, apologies. But yeah, this is it is rather simple to then bring this formation to an end, which leaves you with again another lane at the top. So again, optimal scenario, have a Valeria out, activate Valeria's ult, take care of 2, only worry about the last guy. Didn't use that here, which means we're going to be using a bit more of a scuffed version, which is a Hatsud then plus a Torador as a tank to just get rid of them, or at least attempt it. and then get the job finished that way, with then obviously also having the ability to place in a Volker, place in a Daemon, and that's it. Stage 16 done. On to the final one for this video, stage 17. Alright, so similar to stage 16, just a bit different. This time we're actually going to be starting off with the proper Valeria strat. We're also again placing Gluttony so that he can get his ult up, and we have 4 of these guys. We can only hit 2 of them, but we place Hatset early, make one of them vulnerable to attacks, get ready to use our Valeria ult to actually take care of 2 of them. One guy will pass through, use Wrath to block the guy. It's kind of like the similar way we've dealt with it before. Now what is important here though is you can also remove Valeria, right? Like at this point Valeria is not gonna hit, so you can remove Valeria right here, get yourself more cost, make your life easier, instead of what we've done here, which is just let her die. It's not like she needed to stay alive for this to actually work. Then again, we use another Daemon. Daemon's purpose is to get hit so that the other guy becomes vulnerable. And then we have our Kigiri. Kigiri again getting his ult ready for the counter. Gluttony eats one of them, can solo tank the other. Hatset ult to help him out a bit, deal some damage to the guy at the bottom. And then yeah, this time without Paw of Dominance, this is the way it's like supposed to look. You can see we also removed Wrath. We again don't need him at the top. So a Kigiri block. Kigiri blocks the hit. He dashes through, does some damage, and then he gets another dash after because of his talent. So the double dash, which should just get rid of them outright pretty much. And yeah, you can see the fireballs going in is whatever. Here again, deal properly with the fireballs. So once again, the fireballs close into the one tile, remove them, keep yourself the cost, because you sure as hell are going to need it. Here, Gluttony, obviously important that he survives so he can get 1 extra kill, makes your life easier. Even if he doesn't, you'll probably still be able to find success. But here, Gluttony also gets the healing, so we can let one guy actually pass through. Then use Baron to split the 2 guys. And then also just use a Kigiri ult plus a Hatset ult to just get some extra damage in here. You can see the Kigiri dash helping out the bottom lane. Then Kigiri obviously getting close enough, or the guy getting close enough for a Kigiri counter. So yeah, a lot of Kigiri stuff, right? He just makes these X fighter waves just more simpler. But we did also, or would have also had the cost to, I guess you could say, better deal with this. Now there's a couple things that could have, would have, should have been done here, and that is, you see how we have like pretty much quite a lot of cost by this point, by the time when there's 12 enemies. This is when you want to place Valeria right here, right? This is when you want to replace Valeria right there, and that is so that you have her ultimate ready and you can block him like the first wave. Block with Valeria early, have a Wrath behind. Because I slept on it a little bit, and because I can't re-enter the stage to, I guess, show you a full run, what I did is, you see, oh, I noticed, oh, damn, the enemies are already here. Let me quickly place down a Valeria at the back so she has enough time to get her ult, which obviously isn't the optimal placement, which then leads to the ending, you could say, being heavily scuffed, right? It turns this whole ending into being heavily scuffed. So still, what you still need to do in this situation, if you find yourself in this one, is obviously use Valeria's ult to take care of 2. You can then use Wrath to take care, or at least stop one of them. And once Kigiri and Gluttony are finished with their job, there is no need for you to keep Kigiri on the field anymore. So you can remove the 2 of them, get yourself more blood, more cost. And also Arrogance. Arrogance should have been out earlier, right? By this time right here, you can just place Arrogance up at the top, face him downwards. There were a lot of mistakes made at the end. I didn't even think I would complete the fight, which is kind of what like ruined my attempts a little bit, if so to speak. So Valeria here takes care of the guy, and these guys are still invulnerable, right? So what we need to do here is obviously bait out the hit from one of them, which is what we're using Daemon for at the bottom, and then also to bait out a hit, because it didn't work out in the end. You see how he's still invulnerable because Wrath died slightly earlier. We're just going to be using or placing down Arrogance for some damage. If Arrogance, again, as I said, was out earlier, his ult would trigger earlier, he would do damage earlier, and this fight would nearly become as close. As well as then us just using Torador here to not only get that hit out, So he's actually vulnerable, but also to stall for time. Here again, Kigiri, you see as like Kigiri finishes his job, just remove Kigiri, remove Gluttony, and then also you can then place Invoker for like extra time stall. Or even you see how like Baron actually becomes ready. Yes, this could have been solved way more solidly. But yeah, at the end of the day, Arrogance still gets his ult off, he gets his damage off, he gets the kills in time, and then that is what nets you stage 17. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you learned a couple things about the mechanics. And if you feel like it, you can, I think, tune in later today if you're interested in seeing stage 18 be done on stream, because I have some ideas I want to try out, and it's a bit of a stage.